So let's it looks like everybody's in here. Doom, what experience do you have with Apocalypse World, if you don't mind reminding me?
Practically none.
Okay, no worries. So you are not the only one. Ked has never played as well. He's read the books. Luckily, it's a pretty easy game to grasp. And I'm one of the GMs that if it takes us a few sessions to get used to the moves, to get an understanding about how the actual game functions, that's completely fine. I don't mind slowing things down to kind of explain as we go through. I'd rather us get started on the right foot than to dive right into heavy, grindy stuff, which ends up making, someone that may not be grasping it that well start to feel uncomfortable. We'll go through and kind of take the pieces as they were. So tonight, the main point is that we're going to kind of build our world, build our characters, figure out what is this place we inhabit, why is it Apocalypse World, why is it so fucked up, and then build our character relationships, go through all of those parts. You should all be able to see the flavor text of all the classes right now. It's definitely possible you might have come in here with an idea of what you want to do. I would say let's keep the conversation going, because I think Apocalypse World can work in two different ways. You can either start specifically saying, this is absolutely the character that we are wanting to do right now, which means, okay, that's going to be the specifics to we're starting with a character-based world, or we can decide on a few setting-specific things, so then characters kind of match that. We can do a mixture of both, but I do think that some of the classes do set the idea of what kind of game we're going to play. For example, you have some, location-based classes, the Hard Holder, the Maestro D, where it's primarily going to be about a specific location. It could be a region, it doesn't necessarily have to be just one city, but it's probably going to be a region in which stuff is focused towards. It's going to be survival within that place. But you also have some more versatile or traveling classes like the Driver, in which they are always moving. What's kind of cool is that there's actually some ways that you can still do a mobile situation. I watched Snowpiercer a couple years ago, and I thought that could be a perfect Apocalypse World game where you could literally have a hard holder that controls a series of this massive train that holds, the rest of civilization. And within it, you have these different classes that you could still have a driver that uses machinery that still goes outside the train to be able to get things for it. It doesn't have to be that. Hard holders could control a semi that is just always on the move, and it's just this strange machinery that is large enough to be considered a hard holder, but it's still on the move as well. And then drivers don't have to necessarily be with the crew all the time. They can still have their relationships within it, but if there's a character that happens to go out on a specific mission, it allows them that flexibility. So I think figuring out, again, if you have a specific class where you're just like, yes, that's exactly what I want right now, let's talk about that. If you've come to the table with any great ideas or things you specifically want to see in this game, whether it is we need to have mutants, or I absolutely hate Dust Bowls, which I'm going to kind of throw that one in for myself. I'm kind of over the whole apocalypse means everything is dusty and dirty and Mad Max-ish kind of desert land. That's my kind of turn off. But yeah, if you guys have any ideas, I'd love to start throwing stuff at the table as my mic decides to fall down.
Ooh.
Well, I'm up for whatever as far as it goes for what caused the apocalypse. I guess it's sort of the route that we should be starting with, eh?
So yeah, perfect. There's actually the apocalypse happened about 50 years ago. The oldest people still around would have childhood memories of it. Nobody knows what really happened or why, though. Maybe nobody really even knows. So that's definitely something you can touch on. And there are classes that actually existed before the apocalypse in which you could touch on that. But maybe not necessarily figuring out what the apocalypse was, more what is our world now.
All right.
I don't know how everyone feels about this, but how I typically, within my group, everyone seemed to enjoy doing it. Like the Maelstrom itself was sort of the cause, and we kind of imagine it like the Maelstrom just has such a personality I can't say words. It just has such a personality within the apocalypse world, and like I just imagine like it obviously manifested at some point, and maybe it was itself like confused and everything, and just in its tantrum, just ruined everything.
Mm-hmm. So for the newer players, the Psychic Maelstrom is everywhere. It's just outside your perception, and if you open your brain to it, you can learn things from it. But as you do, it starts to learn things from you as well. If you know how, you can reach out into it and make things happen. It either caused the apocalypse, it didn't cause the apocalypse, nobody really knows. It is the weird abilities, the magical force of Apocalypse World. And what's nice is we don't have to decide exactly what it is right now. The Maelstrom can be emotion, it can be an alien being, it could be anything we decide it becomes, depending on how we play throughout the game. And it doesn't have to be the same thing to every single person as well. The way that you react with the Maelstrom could be completely different than how Dead acts with the Maelstrom. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting aspect to the game. And there are some classes that are really tied into that. You have the Brainer, who is all about the Psychic Maelstrom. They are all about just diving into the weird no places and just going a bit crazy with it. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing to talk about. So the Maelstrom, having some kind of effect is there. I mean, do any of you have a specific class that you feel is your go-to right now? I mean, that might help us at least get a sense of direction.
Well, like I said in the beginning when I joined, I was planning to play a Brainer. Because I have this concept, those creepy little girls.
In all scary movies, yeah.
Yeah, was kind of planning on playing something like that. A psychic girl that basically no one knows where she came from. I was thinking, this is just a blurb that I came up with. We can discuss it. You found her somewhere, and you decide to keep her for some reason. That's what I have so far.
Yeah, I mean, so if you actually read the flavor text for the Brainer, which is up here.
Yeah, I was looking at it.
The Brainers are the weird, psychic mindfucks of Apocalypse World. They have brain control, puppet strings, creepy hearts, dead souls, and eyes like broken things. They stand in your peripheral vision and whisper into your head, staring. They clap lenses over your eyes and read your secrets. They're just the sort of tasteful accoutrement that no well-appointed heart-holder could go without. Brainers are the spooky, weird, and really fun to play. Their moves are powerful but strange. If you want everybody else to be at least a little bit afraid of you, a Brainer is a good choice. Warning, you'll be happy anyway, but you'll be happiest if somebody wants to have sex with you even though you're a Brainer. Angle for that if you can.
I don't think we're going to do that if it's a little girl.
No. No, so that's going to be one of those lines. So I think with the Apocalypse World as well, it is important to discuss the lines that we don't want to cross as a group, anything we're going to be uncomfortable with. And that includes in the game as well. I want you all to feel open that if we get to a point, I do tend to be a bit more visceral with especially combat. I don't try to be extremely gory, but I try to be realistic with my descriptions. And sometimes it might get a bit over it. I kind of come from a medical family, so my mind kind of goes to the realistic of this is what happens to a body when bad things happen to it, even though that's not necessarily where we should go. So if there's ever a point where we're getting uncomfortable, feel free to either speak up, or if you just send me a PM, whatever it is, we can tone that down, ask for a veil, whatever it is. We want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with what we do.
I mean, I'm fine with whatever. If you want like Tarantino levels of like blood fountains, then go for it. But
that all depends on, again, the kind of player or the books that we take. If you happen to bring in like a gunlugger and a battle babe, well, yeah, we're gonna have some combat. That's what they're all about. If you bring on an angel, we're gonna have combat. That's what they're all about. Maestro D, maybe not. You know, there's probably going to be some fights around their location, but it's hard to say. It's probably not going to be focused just around that. The way the game runs is primarily around the PCs. These are the hubs of everything within the world. You know, all attraction is pulled to them, all shit is pulled to them, all interest from external whatever, the psychic maelstrom, is focused on them. They are the only ones of their kind. And so obviously the world is going to kind of attune to that.
Yeah.
So the brainer, I mean, that makes sense with kind of what we have. You know, the maelstrom is definitely an influence. It's here. What that is, we don't know quite yet. Does anybody else have a class that they're kind of leaning towards? Which again might help us kind of set.
I had mentioned before that I'm tired. I'm normally like I'm playing the thinker or the socialite or something like that, and I think for once I just like to bash in some faces or something like that. So I was looking towards the gunlugger myself.
Okay. Well, there's quite a few options with that. I mean, the gunlugger, yeah. If you just want to be the thug, the hired gun, the bodyguard, the bouncer, whatever it is, that's the biggest way to go. I think the Battle Babe could be interesting as well. Battle Babe's more about, I'm really good at fighting, but I'm also really good at making you like pay attention to me. Like I'm gonna fight you, but I'm gonna look good doing it. And the Faceless, if you just want to be a pure badass, there's a move in there called Rasputin. As long as you are just going, no matter how many times you're getting shot, stabbed, or poisoned, if you just keep going, you're going to get more armor by doing it. So I think those might be some interesting options to look at there. So we have we have a girl that obviously is attuned to the maelstrom. We have a combat style.
I might be interested in playing either the Hard Holder or the Maestro D, or maybe the Skin or the Quarantine, but probably keeping it to like Hard Holder. I'm thinking towards.
Okay. And what's determining your kilter to either side?
I guess it's more like what type of game we want to explore, because the Hard Holder kind of like very much defines like, oh, this game's gonna happen near this hard holder.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, let's kind of talk about that. What kind of game do we see this being? Do we want this to be this is our place, like it's going to be focused around a specific location? Is it going to be more of an exploration where you're always on the move? Is this going to be, you know, region based? Like what kind of scale of the game do we want to develop here? Apocalypse World can work great with a small community up to an entire, you know, land, continent, you know.
Just a question. Will we be setting this in a fictional world or like based in the real world?
That's completely up to you. The games that I've run in the past, it's set in the real world, but I make sure to adjust depending on what, again, the setting is. So the first one we played, it was a Dust Bowl, and we had it set in South America, where the oceans had actually dropped down. So I was able to create maps and everything that showed kind of what islands would still exist that were now like mountains and all that kind of stuff. I think, you know, in Apocalypse World, maps are great. They don't have to be specific, you know, but it's at least to give an idea. So if you have a specific place where you think it would be really cool to have an apocalypse in this area, I think that'd be interesting to hear.
Well, I'm up for discussion.
I'm up for whatever. I mean, we don't need specific maps since it's, you know, the apocalypse has happened, but I do kind of like putting it on Earth just to give us a real world Earth to give us like a ground basis to work off of. Okay, so let's start talking about the things we don't want. All right, what are some typical Apocalypse World tropes that we've seen too many times, we've experienced too many times, we just don't agree with, so we can maybe cross off some lists and get an idea of what our world might inhabit? Well, I agree about the Dust Bowl thing. I mean, that's been done to death.
Yeah.
Apocalypse games that I've played in the past, like even if it's not like the desert ones, it's more like sometimes they do like a Fallout thing where it's like, okay, I get it, everything's dead, but
just complete wasteland.
Yeah, wasteland trope.
It's been done to death.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm personally not a huge fan of water worlds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, what the worlds, I suppose, they've been done before as well.
Mm-hmm.
A big part of a apocalypse world is the scarcities that you have. That's kind of what drives the game. Is these are the things that we don't have. A lot of the times, food, water, ammunition. It could be people. It could be access to medical care, gasoline. A large list of things. Do any of you have a specific scarcity that you think, okay, this is something that is either missing from our location or something that's missing from the world that I think would be interesting? Or anything that, again, has been used too much that we just don't want to use?
I suppose a theme centered around zombies. I think that's been done to that as well.
Yeah.
No more. To say it positive, I know we're going with the negatives here, but just for throwing ideas for the positives around as well, I like the idea of part of the reason that you have scarcities is the danger of getting certain items, like in Rain of Fire, for instance, although that's a bit of a dust bowl itself. Part of the reason they couldn't just grow crops again was the fact that the dragons are out there constantly and they had to deal with that. I like the fact that it's just that oppressive danger where you can't go out to get your resources because of the threat.
Yeah.
So maybe like a scarcity of safety.
Yeah.
Okay. So there,
I like that.
There's kind of like. Go ahead.
Yeah. I suggested. I think I suggested something similar to the Attack on Titan setting, where most of humanity is hidden behind walls, and
because of the danger.
Yeah, and when they go out, it's generally suicide missions almost, because of the Titans.
Yeah,
so I think
like
that
the
would be
idea.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like the idea of that, having that something is causing that sense of urgent danger whenever you try to go out and do anything, even if it's not a creature. Like you look at the series of The Rain, which there was abundant everything around them because it was only humanity affected by it, but at the same time you were trapped half the time in buildings or couldn't go out just because of the danger of the outside world.
Okay. So yeah, kind of a nothing is safe, don't go outside the walls kind of theme. Okay. So I've been seeing snow. I could see, I don't know, I thought snow could be a bit too close to a dust bowl, but it's also a different kind, where it's still, in a way, creates a type of world that, yeah, it kind of kills a lot of the things, and especially if it's, toxic snow or...
It's sort of like a nuclear winter.
Something like that, yeah.
Kind of like The Road-esque?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I'd be perfectly fine for like a snowy world where like everything is cold.
It's kind of like the Dust Bowl, but reversed.
It is.
Yeah, it's the opposite, but the same in a way. It's a horseshoe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a mountainous region too, so it's like you can try to leave this place, but I mean, there's a million choke points that people are probably going to ambush you in. You probably won't get very far without supplies or anything like that. Like, just a million and one ways to die the moment you step outside the door.
Things could hide in the snow, or the snow could be super deep. I mean, this area in the year 77, there was a blizzard so bad that the snow drifts were like well above the telephone poles.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe the snow could affect things too, more than dust does. Dust, you have, again, any kind of Mad Max you've ever seen, but what kind of creatures are created to be able to withstand the cold? Instead of seeing a whole bunch of leather-clad warriors, are you seeing full, like, parka'd, snowmobile riding raiders, that kind of stuff.
Oh no, it's the furries.
Yeah. We got the hockey team coming at us. Okay, so...
I think it would be interesting now that you mentioned the fur-clad warriors, like a sort of nomadic invasions or something, like they try to destroy your walls and pillage everything inside. I think that would be an interesting.
So here in Colorado, where I'm from, we actually have a base that is a military bunker that's built within the mountains, and it's supposed to be the place that a lot of the high staff goes to hide if anything ever happened. You kind of mentioned mountains. Do you kind of see this as a city within actual like walls? Was this maybe a castle that was taken over, something like that, or is this like a bunker built into the mountains? What kind of environment are we seeing for this actual place?
I actually think like a castle would be something original. Like we in most apocalypse settings we've seen they always are hiding behind either makeshift walls in cities or bunkers, something modern. But I think hiding in a castle would be more original and interesting.
We could do it somewhere in the UK then.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Europe, yeah.
Because I was actually toying with the idea of my character being Scottish, anyways. But somewhere in the UK might. Lots of castles.
It actually kind of brings this interesting element where in a lot of games you focus so much on gaining more new technology to be able to survive, but in this case you had to use older technology to survive. Yeah. You had to literally go back in time to what they did to survive before they had telephone lines and working electricity and all of that, and that was finding a castle that still stood, and that is now the place that you reside.
I think that would bring us to one of our scarcities, which would probably be firearms and ammunition. We'd probably have to rely in more medieval weaponry or something.
And so
warmth would probably be a scarcity too.
Oh yeah. I think warmth, and then like crop grown foods.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Probably mostly hunting. Yeah. Of what until you're hunted out.
And then I think that actually it makes sense, if you have a gun lugger, they're probably going to be like one of the main warriors of whatever this community is. They might be some of the only that have access to these weapons, or maybe they're that strange outsider that you got your guns, you're not telling anybody where you got your guns, and you're using your guns to do whatever you want to do, because nobody else really has them. Okay, yeah, I think that's interesting. So Invictus, you mentioned being a hard holder. Do you feel like you would want to be a hard holder for this kind of place, or do you feel like you would want? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Seems very interesting. Kind of like having to make the hard decisions of, oh, we're starting to run out of like canned food. We go outside of the mountain to try to get something. Things like that.
It also makes me wonder, maybe you found the king's chambers or the library, and so you have access to ancient records of historical accounts of how they survived their ancient winters, and while they're nowhere close to what you're facing now, maybe that kind of influences some decisions you make, or if you have kind of a royalty kind of aspect, or maybe not. So awesome.
Yeah,
so
maybe
it reminds me of the kingdom from Walking Dead, where their leader actually plays the part of a king.
Yeah.
No, I just need a pet tiger, and
there you go.
Yeah. Well, tigers in Europe are probably hard to find.
I raided a zoo.
Siberian? Maybe it's a Siberian tiger.
A lynx.
Who knows?
So we have a hard holder, a brainer. What about you, Dad? You having any thoughts so far?
At the moment, I'm leaning towards the Hocus.
There we go.
That's gonna play really.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, gonna be
really going into medieval theme with castles and religion.
Yeah, right. I kind of like this element of, again, we're in the future, but in a way, we're in the past. We have a chance to redo it.
Oh my god, I can just see him like walking in. Nice castle here. Now where's the stake and who are we burning?
Yes. Excuse me. So the Hocus, it says, Now it should be crystal fucking obvious that the gods have abandoned Apocalypse World. Maybe in the Golden Age with one of its nations under God, and it's in God we trust. Maybe then the gods were real. Fucked if I know. All I know is that now they're gone, daddy gone. My theory is that these weird hocus fuckers, when they say the gods, what they really mean is the miasma left over the explosion of psychic hate and desperation that gave Apocalypse World its birth. Friends, that's our creator now. So hocuses have a cult of followers that the way that choppers have gangs. They're strange, social, public, and compelling. If you want to sway mobs, play a hocus. Warning, things are going to come looking for you. Being a cult leader means having to deal with your fucking cult.
Which that plays in really well with like the hard hold and having to deal with the burdens of like managing. And that also having managed cult too, like making sure they don't get too out of line.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if we're sort of aiming towards more of a medieval in the future sort of idea. Maybe aiming towards or leaning towards a little bit more of the battle babe in this case. Because I think that might be better if I go more for like bladed weapons and stuff. Because it seems like we kind of want to not take guns completely out of the picture, but kind of make them like a special, like rare to find type of thing.
Yeah, I can see. Like maybe there was that one group of raiders that found an actual military base, you know, and they have their stuff and that's theirs, you know. But for the most part, you know, you have hunters and you have nomadic tribes and you have that kind of things. Like, you know, Horizon Zero Dawn, you know, that maybe that kind of thing where there was weird technology out there, but in a way, you know, these different tribes kind of exhibit the area that they're in.
No, I'm torn between Faceless and the Battle Babe at the moment. Don't know.
Luckily, when you level up, you do have the opportunity to take moves from other classes as well.
Yeah.
So it does leave that option if you think, maybe I want to go one way or another. Another thing is, if you get to a point where you would be considered dead, you do have the option of changing to another class as well. Starting as a battle babe, absolutely, you could get to a point where you're just teared to shreds and you come back as a faceless.
I already have like, ideas for what to change to when things go south.
Yeah, I'll probably start as battle babe then.
Awesome. So let me go ahead and drag these things up here.
Can I just make a suggestion for your character? Q. I don't know how your name is spelled.
I usually go by Qedhup.
Qedhup, okay. Since it's kind of the thing that if you're going out of the walls, you have to be like really fast with getting resources, so whatever's out there doesn't get you. You can always haggle for like a horse archer or something, because then you're always on the move, you're fast, and you have like a bow to shoot from a safe distance if need be, or to hunt.
I mean,
crossbow is one of the custom weapons options.
I was originally thinking like crazy Scotsman with a big sword, but
there you go.
No. Just a suggestion. If you want to play the Scotsman, it's cool. Yeah.
I think you get both. You get a gun and a melee weapon that you get to customize.
Yeah. Battle Babe is a lot about like customization, like making their weapons look awesome and powerful. Which really, that's kind of like the essence of Apocalypse World, is just cool stuff in scarcity.
Yeah.
That's a nice gun, but do you have a cult?
Then it's like, but do you have an army?
So if you want to start kind of working through your characters, that basically they should each have their rundown about how to actually create it. So taking a look at your battle babe there, Ked. We're gonna start off, you know, you look at let's see, let me scroll down here. I believe it's in the advance.
For the stats?
Yeah, so if you go to the advanced part of your page, it's going to actually give you your create. So it's going to have a list of names. I recommend picking one from the list. I think they all fit. If you feel like you have one that's not on the list you want to use, it's going to be fine. You're going to want to pick your stats. So looking at the stats, I do have kind of their descriptions down there. But you'll pick one of those stat blocks depending on what you want your character to roll around as. For your gear, you might see occasionally, oddments with 4 barter, stuff like that. Barter is the currency in the game. It can literally be anything. When it's used, we'll probably discuss what that is. Is it, a bunch of meat? Is it actual money? We'll figure out what that is once we actually get in there. As far as armor goes, armor is going to be primarily +1. +1 is going to be your standard leather, jackets and your road gear, that kind of stuff. But level 2 armor is going to be visible. Like, you are walking around clearly in a suit of armor. You are wearing a full, bulletproof jacket. You're looking like a, it's very obvious you're wearing armor. +3 armor does exist, but it's extremely rare. That's pretty much the equivalent to like a bomb disposal suit. It's a big clunky suit of armor. So
I'll be disappointed if someone doesn't find plate armor.
Right?
I'm trying to already.
Could be an interesting aspect that we are all like wearing chainmail and then someone is using like an M4.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. It's that one guy from Thor Ragnarok with the M16s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you'll go through and you'll pick your look. Again, pick from the list whatever you want your character to look like. If from that you actually have an example of what your character wants to look like, an image, feel free to send that to me. I can, use that for the video and all that. Mm-hmm. And then each of your class will give you the list of how many moves you get to choose. So some will be 1, some will be 3, some will be all, some will be 2. And then once we have that kind of done, we'll worry about hex and history and all that kind of stuff a little bit later. So yeah, if you have any questions while you're going through, feel free to speak up. And if you have any ideas that come up as well, hey, are we possibly family members? Or, do you want to be twins or anything like that? Feel free to.
Thankfully, we have HX as well. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to suggest the kind of currency. Since you guys mentioned that farming will probably be very hard in the harsh snowy conditions. Maybe cattle would be our way to trade with other groups, tribes.
Yeah.
And
also things like viable seeds. I guess animals would be more important at this point because you can't really grow anything.
We'd probably have to really keep them like protected inside the walls because they would probably be very valuable. They would be our only source of sustenance, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And warmth and that stuff. In the case of sheep, and
yeah. Or I was also saying, in terms of like character backstories, HX is a great thing that I love about Apocalypse World character creation that does help with that.
All right.
Okay. Question. I don't seem to see a place on the sheet to specifically put in look. Am I blind or?
Probably not blind, to be honest.
You could put it in the bio and info
Yeah,
section.
I would put it, if you hit edit, maybe just put it in there. Be easiest.
All right, I was about to have the same question.
There you go.
And as we go through here, just a couple things to keep in mind. You guys don't necessarily have to like each other, but you at least know each other. It's probably not best to start as enemies. You can definitely work your way to it, but you at least kind of know each other to a point. You all obviously do have a move for what happens when you have sex. They're there if it ever happens, you know, and we don't ever have to drive to that point or go there, and definitely veil over it if we ever get to that point. And as your characters, you are unique to Apocalypse World. There are other hard holds out there, but you are the only hard holder. There are other cult leaders, but you are the only Hocus. So you're unique. And just
Unique
as
among even NPCs, you mean?
you're unique in the world. So there's other psychic weirdos, but you are the only brainer.
Mm-hmm.
It's what makes you guys, again, special. There's others that wish to be like you or could be considered to be a lesser version of you, but there is no one that is you. There is no other battle babe. There are other, you know, attractive warriors, but they don't reach that level. And from the book itself, I'm not out here to get you. If I were, you know, you could just pack it in right now. I could say there's an earthquake. You all take 10 harm, and you all die. We're all here to have some fun, make some cool, hot, fucking kick-ass characters, and tell some great stories.
Ooh. So,
This is always one of the best parts of the game.
oh yeah, I love
Character
especially the
creation.
hard holder character creation because a lot of it is like, what actually is your hard hold?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same. I get to customize my cult.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm. Well, probably talk about this. I'm kind of thinking about actually having like the idea behind the specific hard hold is that it's that kind of like in the mountain, right? It's nice and secure for the most part. What if like the surrounding settlements around the mountain that necessarily aren't safe kind of use as kind of like the trading hub of the entire region? And that's kind of what makes this hard hold special.
Mm-hmm.
Is the fact that, well, it's the trading hub.
Yeah, and I mean, depending on how winter's going, that could very much be affecting the trade aspect right now.
Exactly. Like maybe there's like at one point there's a snowstorm that picks up and like I would have to figure out like, oh, like are we gonna have to clear the roads out or like can we clear the roads out?
Yeah, if someone goes missing, like that could be another problem with other settlements. They could start pointing fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then the raids come.
Yeah. So I was thinking for my gigs, either taking the bustling, widely known market commons or protection tribute,
Okay.
making other people like bow down to the will of Emperor Invictus.
So basically, you're going to vassalize the whole area.
I'm actually technically I could take both, couldn't I?
So this is great. I can make a bow that is both silenced and fully automatic.
There you go.
Fully auto bow. Someone has been playing Assassin's Creed Origins.
Why would you need to silence a bow?
It's extra
the twang
quiet.
of the string is just way too much. It's too loud.
The arrows hissing,
Mm-hmm.
like silent arrows.
All the arrows just have shh written on the side.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't hear anything.
Just the penguins from Madagascar.
So, tell me about this location. Are you like deep within the mountains? Like, is there? You got to follow some trails. Are you kind of on the edge of the mountains where you have the highest location, but it's not like you are, you know, super high up there.
I imagine if it's the trading hub, then there, at the very least, like, there has to be a road by us.
Yeah,
And it might be the road.
I would think that it's not too deep just for the fact that people have to actually get there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not too deep. It's but there's kind of the potential. I'm kind of feeling like it's in terms of like the mountain. Like let's imagine the mountain is the region we're focusing. It's at the peak or one of the like peaks that people can actually access.
One of the
But
low-
it's on it more or less.
Most
Castles-
castles were on like a bluff or cliffside or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, because they needed the visibility to in case of approaching armies.
Mm-hmm.
So it likely have to be, if it's an actual medieval castle, it will probably be built on some higher up place, but it will probably still be somewhat accessible.
Yeah.
But if in the case of danger, if someone sees like an approaching raiding party or something, they can quickly close the gates. And
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm probably going to be taking your compound is tall, deep, and mighty of stone and iron.
Nice. Why doesn't anybody go out the northern gate anymore? What are they scared of on the other side?
The beast. ...
Yeah, we've probably like found people are like coming back like mauled and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe we're not
Yeah.
even 100% sure what it is, and that fear is what's really keeping people inside.
That
Yeah.
would probably make the best scenario is not knowing what the danger is.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
maybe,
the fun thing about Apocalypse World is during this creation, we can get pretty specific, or we can decide to keep it vague, depending, again. Just because you decide right now that it's two-headed bears doesn't mean that's all that's going to be out there. We've just kind of set a standard for what you know exists right now. I'm supposed to take that and then build on top of it. Okay, you have a bunch of bears. Why are the bears here? What is their threat? How can I then use them to cause trouble for your place? So yeah, we can say beast for now. And as we go through, I'll probably ask more of those kind of vague, strange questions just to where we're adding the color to our palette here. Getting an idea of what, again, makes this a bit more specific.
Yeah, I definitely very much like the idea of not completely realizing what's threatening us right now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, at least at the beginning. But I think it would be cool to have a reveal at some point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And maybe I was kind of thinking that my character, I don't imagine him and his cult live here, because I feel like that would be, I don't know, people get uncomfortable when there's a cult around. So maybe we were traveling this way and maybe I lost someone and don't know what happened, and the winter closed in, and now I'm just stuck here.
It's possible.
Yeah.
And I've probably passed through here before. Maybe the group kind of bounces around the various settlements recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, kind
yeah,
of.
you probably like.
Go ahead.
Oh, so you probably know of me, but it's not like we're like buddy.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like you've been
Yeah,
here
so-
before, but you're not from here.
Yeah.
Mhm. Which, yeah, I mean, it fits because the way I'm kind of imagining the Hardhold, it's kind of a mix between a trade hub and also kind of the like kind of like the castle in a feudal on a feudal system, right? There's like other like villages that pay protection to it, or like field levies, things like that. So it also kind of makes sense that like, oh yeah, I'll offer you protection, don't worry. But in return, there's kind of like that back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the idea.
They have to pay resources.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have to work in the salt mines.
So, have you come up with a name for your character yet, Doom?
Well, it's right here in Roll20.
Dusk? Perfect.
Oh yeah.
So Dusk.
The idea was that you almost only see her like during dusk, so that's why you gave her the name Dusk.
Nice. Where do you stay within this castle?
So I was thinking I probably followed someone inside, and I don't know. I probably am squatting for some time until I probably the hard holder.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe you found a storage shed or something that no one was paying attention to.
most likely.
And when you look out of the little window from your storage shed, kind of faces deeper into the mountains, what do you see? What stands out to you?
Good question. I probably see something uncomfortable.
Is it a thing you see, thing you smell, thing you hear?
Well, if it's that far away, I can probably see it and maybe faintly hear it.
And does it seem like beast, a structure, a piece of land, or something so foreign you just are not quite sure what it is?
Probably some place which is kind of uncomfortable to look at, like it brings bad memories.
It's like a dark zone of sorts. You look at it and you get nightmares, things like that.
My creepy little girl senses are tingling.
Nice. All right, and looks like we have Lark, our Hocus. Also.
Yes.
Just a question: was I supposed to be editing anything on the handouts or the playbooks?
No, so that's just it's directly from the book itself. It's just for you to reference as you're building your character, and then as you level up, it'll give you the different moves you can get access to and all that stuff. So
all right.
Just update it on your sheet.
Oh, okay. You're taking note of the sheets.
Yeah. Yep. And then Angus.
Yup. That's right.
All right, so Lark, I mean, you're here. You're obviously, making your presence known. Where have you holed up?
We probably, since we move around a lot, I imagine we have some, like maybe some we carry around some old camping supplies because we're not welcome everywhere. Like, as I said, like the cult makes people uncomfortable, even though
we like nomads.
A little bit, and we're kind of forced to be like that. It's not that we want to sleep outside; it's that no one will let us in their house. But this is a situation where it's like, okay, we're gonna die out here. So, Invictus, like, I don't know, like, does this castle have like a bit of a courtyard that we could set our tents up in?
Definitely. Like, this is actually a pretty big place. I specifically took like having a very large population, so I'm kind of imagining like this is a pretty big castle with a like very big courtyard where there's like this bustling market right there.
Did it have a like a church or a religious building?
I would say it probably has a small chapel that like either it's been used as like a warehouse or it hasn't been really used that much yet.
Yeah, it might just be another building that's there.
But it would have a really large bailey at that point, I'm guessing. Then that's what we're in.
Yeah, so I imagine even if I'm not there, there's usually at least one of my cult like hanging around there. Even though we don't necessarily worship the old gods that are represented by the chapel. it's still seen as kind of like an important religious place that like this is where people went to pray.
Yeah,
It's
like
like a spiritual place.
you might not know exactly what it means, you know, when it says, you know, whatever religion is there, Messiah or Judah or, you know, God, whatever the case might be. But you attribute it to some state of holiness or power. Yeah, that could be interesting as well. So this obviously isn't the only hardhold. Tell me about another hardhold you love going to, and one that you absolutely hate or will never return to again.
Okay. Ooh. Okay.
We definitely got kicked out because one of our members decided to get violent when he shouldn't have. So there's probably I'm going to use a name from one of my old sessions, Ashtown. It's like an old town kind of in the mountains, and a lot of it burned, hence why they call it Ashtown, but they use the husks of the buildings as kind of their shelter, and they've built over top of them.
And there's a bit of violence in there that they weren't a fan of?
No, and not necessarily, like, I'm of course responsible because I'm obviously the head of the group, but it was one of our members just, like, I don't know, like, argument over a girl, argument over food, just like I don't even know, but like he hurt somebody and obviously that caused a lot of trouble.
Who was it? What's his name?
I'm gonna say Abraham. It's kind of like an old pre-apocalypse name, but young boy, like not necessarily a bad person, but impulsive. And I even considered probably kicking him out, but he just begged, and it's like I'd be sentencing him to death, exiling him from the group. So it's like,
yeah.
So the Hocus has a heart.
Oh yeah. You have to get at the layers a little bit, but there's something in there.
And what settlement location do you just absolutely love going to? Your favorite place?
Let's see. Come back to me on that one.
Okay.
I have to think of one.
So Angus. Angus. Is this where you are, or is this where you've come?
This is where I have wandered to.
How long have you been here?
Not terribly long.
And on your way here, you had to make get off the beaten trail, kind of forge your own path. And why was that? What made you not want to stay on the main road?
I had to get off the main road, or the main paths or main areas, because I had come across another small little colony or group of some kind. But from the looks of the bloated corpses near the edges of their colony, it looked like there's something, maybe a plague or something had happened, and I wanted to skirt that, give that a wide berth just in case.
Awesome. All right, so it sounds like everybody kind of has their characters going a bit. Let's go ahead and dive in. I'll definitely have more questions as we go through to kind of touch on the important elements of your characters. So let's go ahead and we'll start with Qed here, our battle babe. Do you want to introduce us to your character, give us their look, kind of run through their basic details, run through the moves that you've selected for them, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah, I'm still doing a bit of tweaks, but I think I got the basics for everything done here. So Angus, a bit of a fiery temper. He's got his hair's a mix. It's like a dark brown with a bit of a reddish tint to it, depending on the lighting. Despite the cold and despite the fact that he's obviously used to combat and a more violent nature, and that he carries apparently a set of armor with him, he never wears it. He seems more comfortable in just his bare skin, or at least light cloth to keep him warm. Mostly because I get armor and I've decided to take impossible reflexes, so I don't need it.
All right.
Maybe I can trade it.
Yeah.
He's a very in-your-face individual, very, very boisterous. If you even mention the possibility of anyone maybe having made some sort of this distillery or alcohol in any way, you can guarantee he'll be excited enough to give you whatever you need. He doesn't really talk about where he's come from or what he's done, just that he's looking for a place to settle, and he's willing to lift his axe or his bow as are needed.
Very nice. So you took impossible reflexes. What's the other move that you took?
Merciless.
All right. Nice. And how old is he?
I would say he probably looks like he's in his late 30s.
Okay.
Maybe early 40s. It'd be hard to tell because he's probably fairly weathered.
Talk to us about your custom weapons.
Well, he has a very heavy axe by the looks of it. Well used, well maintained at the same time. Not an easy weapon to swing around, but his muscly arms managed to do so. And not always strung, of course, but carried with him is it looks like probably a holdover from the old times. Would be a high-powered hunting bow. It even has like a scope on it. So it's probably, probably from what in real world nowadays would have been from like a good hunting store or something, and it's sort of carried over time.
Mm-hmm. Have you named your weapons?
The axe I just have as actually no, I don't really have names for them yet.
Mm-hmm.
I probably will.
All right, and let's see. Got your fashion, your moves. Very nice, very nice. So yeah, how long have you been on the road before you got here?
Probably a long time, longer than he wanted to be. I'm going to say that he was with a group that, for one reason or another, that he doesn't want to discuss, fell. Mm-hmm. And he's probably been just in pure survival mode, which has sort of made him a little unhinged for probably the better part of a couple of years.
And what is it about this place that is keeping you here for now?
Comfort, safety, humans to actually talk to. The way he's a little off, and the way he sort of maybe mumbles to himself occasionally, you're thinking he probably hasn't had a lot of human contact during his time away. And just having people that are actually there to talk to, and not just people's faces he carves in trees, is a big improvement.
Mm-hmm. Where do you get your ammo for your bow? Do you make it? Do you buy it?
He's been out for so long. I'm assuming unless he occasionally finds maybe a hidden cache from a hunter or something, he generally makes it himself.
Mm-hmm. And what do you make the arrowheads with?
Since metal would be so difficult to find and he couldn't really work it anyways, I'm going to assume a lot of times it's probably bones from things that he's hunted.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That sounds awesome.
So yeah, with the Battle Babe, you're all about, again, looking good and getting stuff done. What stat selection did you take?
I'm still debating at
Okay.
the moment.
No
I'm
worries.
torn. But right now, the one I have put in is the cool at 3. Well, it's the last one in the
Mhm.
list.
Okay.
I'm still tinkering though.
Yeah, no worries. All right. Well, I might come back with more questions. So, it looks like a Mark Bailey?
Hmm.
Mark
Yep.
Bailey, our
Or
hard
the
holder.
Emperor Invictus. He doesn't use the name Mark Bailey anymore.
So you
He
would
changed his name.
I see. I like it. So Emperor Invictus.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
So yeah, go ahead and introduce us to the Emperor.
All right. The Emperor Mark Bailey. I guess I'll introduce with by his look, I guess. So he looks, I mean, going down the list, looks like a man, has juncture wear, stern face, commanding eyes, and a wiry body. So what I kind of imagine that to be is, he's relatively tall-ish, kind of thin. He probably doesn't eat too much because there isn't that much to go around. Though there's kind of that look to him. There's the look of a leader. When he looks at people, it almost kind of compels them to want to follow his orders. He's always standing around wearing whatever gear he found from this castle. Always. He's never found without his armor. That's how he presents himself to guests. That's how he presents himself to people in general. He's almost as a military leader. He has a very stern face. He's gone through quite a bit. Because what I'm thinking led him to his to the Hardhold was he was actually originally not from the mountain. He was originally from kind of, I guess, ground floor, and something, either the snow, another faction, maybe whatever was lurking beneath, was hunting him and and kind of other people around. He managed to organize them, and he fled up the mountain where he found the castle. And kind of with this, what he found inside, with the amount of people here, he managed to turn into this massive trade hub and turn himself to a feudal lord for the surrounding area, at least, or at least some of the surrounding.
Mm-hmm. What is the name of this hardhold?
The name of this hardhold, for now, it's just the castle.
Mm-hmm.
What other castle?
Yep. As far as
Exactly.
you know, it's the only one.
The
All right.
moment we find another one, it's like, well, guess we have to find another name now.
The other
So,
castle.
The other castle.
Castle number
Then
2.
it's number 2. After that, it's that other castle.
Mhm.
The castle we're currently on is this castle. The other castle is that castle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like Air Force One, you know. The moment Emperor Invictus isn't a castle, it's this castle.
And what stat selection did you take?
So I took the stat selection with 1 cool, 2 hard, 1 hot, 1 sharp, and -2 weird.
Okay.
Kind of thinking that it's he can open his mind to the psychic emotion, but it's not something he likes doing.
Yeah.
It's not something he's good at. He's almost a very rational man. He doesn't want to believe that there is like too much of the unexplainable that is going on. But it's almost like he thinks this to comfort himself. In his
So,
subconscious, he knows there's something out there, but he doesn't want to believe it.
when you look to the east and see the dark zone, what do you see?
I see. To the east of the dark zone. I see war. I see suffering. I see what came before and what will come afterwards. I see the endless cascade of civilization. Falling and rising up over and over again.
So let's talk a little bit about the castle here. So you have a few selections you made there.
Mm-hmm.
So by default, it has 75 to 150 souls. It has a few gigs. So yeah, give me a rundown about your selections.
Okay. So The castle, basically, the special things that make it different from the default is it has a much larger population. It has 200 to 300 souls. Which means lots of people, which means disease is rampant. Oh boy. Then we actually have 2 extra gigs with this holding. We have Protection Tribute. And we have a bustling, widely known Market Commons, which gives us more barter, but also a want for obligation and a want for strangers. And of course, the compound is tall, deep, and mighty of stone and iron. This place is very defensible. That is, if the gang chooses to stay in. Because out of the various like negatives to the holding, yeah, the gang is a pack of fucking hyenas. They're savage.
Of course.
Oh no.
The moment they get into a fight, they want blood. And by golly, they're gonna have it. And of course, like our garage is some shit. So it says there are only 4 vehicles, only 2 of them are suitable for battle. I'm thinking like converting that to kind of more medieval terms, we might just like have like a working carriage or 2 and a horse if we have them. Do we actually have horses? Because we have sheep, probably, because that's what's used as currency, it seems.
Well, I mean,
I think it would be. I think it would be funny for you to have the horses and then just a random automobile right next to them.
Yeah. There's an automobile I use when I want to like when I want to impress the locals.
It's one of the 2 fit for battle.
So is, I guess, for transportation, is that another one of our scarcities that we have?
I think
vehicles still
cars,
exist, but
I think the technology in whole should be like a scarcity, which is what drives us to live like in medieval times. So I think, of course, horses would also be a commodity, but not as scarce as like a working car or something. And also for a car, you also need fuel, which will probably also be very scarce.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because there's pretty much no way that this castle would be like, it's like castle advanced city. So I mean, back in the day, it was probably way out in the country anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So in that case, you know, you have, what would you consider then to be your vehicles that are suitable for battle?
I would probably consider it to be the car, which I'm gonna say might actually be a very old military vehicle.
Okay.
A very old military vehicle with like, I'm thinking kind of like a some sort of like a minigun on the like at the back.
Okay.
That's one of the ones that are suitable for battle. And another one is like an actual like, it's just like an old carriage. And I'm thinking we probably have like a horse or 2 that's just like that managed to survive that we're like of. And the other 4 vehicles are other carriages, but they're more like broken. Like they can't move too fast, and if we actually like move them throughout the mountain, there's a high chance that they might just break.
Who's the leader of your gang?
The leader of my gang would be, let's see. It would be a man.
Every emperor needs a general.
Indeed.
Marshal.
Yeah, his name is Seneschal. Let's see. My name is Invictus. Let's find some more Latin. What's the name? What's the word for general in Latin?
We have like legatus or something.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, he'll use the term of just the legate is the name he uses. Just the legate. And he was actually originally at the head of a raider gang or a bandit gang back on the surface. And it was through negotiations that basically at that point, Mark Bailey managed to convince them, hey, it's a lot more profitable if you help me protect these people that are following me if we extort them than if you just try to like pillage things. On the long term, it's a lot better. And that's kind of like their savage roots.
Nice, yeah, I like it. When the Emperor, wakes up in the morning and kind of walks outside to survey his vast landscape, and he looks up, what does the sky look like?
A deep, dark abyss from whence nothing comes out. Or is there? Comes out? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
So is it darkness because of clouds, or is it just you're staring kind of into space as if it was eternal night, yet there's still light?
I'm thinking, like, probably a mix of both. Or at least there can be light sometimes, but whenever it is, it's kind of... So I think it's dark a lot of...
So is that another scarcity then? Natural light?
Could be.
That
in the winter, yeah.
You have lots
like,
of torches, and for those that have been able to find them, like finding oil lanterns and that kind of stuff is like a super high commodity.
I bet, like, in the winter it gets dark so early too. I mean, there's not a lot of, like, especially with something out there that we're unaware of. It's, I mean, I guarantee it's much worse at night where, so actual safe travel time's probably a bit of a scarcity at this point.
If we're playing in a sort of nuclear winter, I suppose that the sky would be almost always covered by clouds.
Well, it could also, it doesn't necessarily have to be a nuclear winter. What if it's the sun is faded and that's why it's so cold? The light is not going to be there, and because of the lack of sunlight, now there's a ton of snow, something like that. Or maybe it's something we still discover. Yeah, I don't know.
Something, the sun vanished, ARG? Yeah.
I mean, I suppose, I don't think there shouldn't be any light at all. I think there should be some light, but like just a few hours in the day, and it's most likely just like covered by clouds or something.
Yeah, so it's a scarcity. It's not a non-existence. It's there. It's just not there as much as you would like it to be. You don't have as much access to it. And that
which is why you probably also cannot plant almost anything.
Yeah. All right. So what is something that you can't, like, what is your main import here?
Main import, probably food. Just based on the sheer amount of people we have here, either like full-time residents that are just helping things along, or like with the traders coming in, it would be food.
Like hunted food, is this are they able to actually grow things a bit down lower so they actually have crops, or did somebody find a warehouse full of preserved supplies? What kind of food are they?
I think that probably depend on the settlement. I would probably think that like those that are like probably lower down can grow something. Maybe like I don't know like how potatoes work, but maybe they can grow potatoes since those grow under the ground, things like that.
Maybe they have like some sort of makeshift greenhouse.
Yeah, things like that. And maybe there is a settlement that like has a massive like bunker full of food, and like enough food to last like a couple hundred years, and they're just like trading that out, even though it's a limited resource. And I'm thinking kind of maybe another thing that might be at least traded, not necessarily imported, but traded around here is also weapons. Because the castle was like a castle. Right?
Do you have like a blacksmith that actually works at the castle to create, old from what you have there? Maybe not necessarily create, but do people maybe bring things to them, old scrap, and they're able to then form weapons and stuff?
I would say not yet, but simply because we don't have the expertise. We have the location. but don't have anybody who knows how to work steel.
So what would your largest export be then?
The largest exports would be actually it would be mercenary work.
So just the protection.
Yeah, we're kind of around to protect, protect and serve. No, except not serve. Since protection tribute is one of us. Yeah, serve ourselves, exactly. Since protection tribute is kind of one of our main gigs, we basically go out and, like, for territory that's like under our protection, we go there, see if there's any problems. If there is, we take care of it. And it's also just the fact that naturally the castle is in such a location that everybody trades over there. So there's kind of like with tariffs, things like that, we naturally get stuff.
And what was the latest settlement that you made a deal with? What was the deal all about? And what were they offering you? What are you offering them?
The latest settlement was actually a settlement all the way down at the base of the mountain. And they cover one of the only entrances to the mountain. And their whole thing is that they have a stockpile of makeshift weapons. And basically, we've kind of made a deal with them where, as long as they don't really try to expand outside of the entrance to the mountain, we'll deliver them food, or at least we'll send traders their way to deliver them food. If they have any problems, we'll come. Same thing like with protection. If they have any problems, we'll come by. But specifically, the deal is levies. If I need to press them into service, I will.
And
maybe they're a little bit on the small side too, which is why you feel you can actually afford to send food down there.
Yeah, I think they probably is like a very small settlement, maybe like 20 people maximum.
And what's the name of their leader?
The name of their leader, it'd be a man who goes by the name of the Night Sentinel. I'm kind of thinking there's like a theme of like when leaders take power around here, they change names to kind of like obfuscate their old name.
Well, I want a cool name too.
Awesome. All right, yeah, definitely some things to build on there. And then what were the moves that you took?
So I actually don't get any choices with the moves I take. I just get the 2 hardholder moves. I get leadership, which is when you have to order your gang to advance, regroup, hold position, hold discipline, or put their damn backs into it, roll plus hard. On a hit, they do it. On a 10 plus, they snap 2, take +1 forward. On a miss, they do it, but you'll hear about it. And wealth. If your hold is secure and your roll unchallenged, at the beginning of the session, roll plus hard. On a 10 plus, you have surplus at hand and available for the needs of the session. On a 7-9, you have surplus, but choose 1 watt. On a miss, or if your hold is compromised or your roll contested, your hold is in watt. The precise values of your surplus in watt depend on your holding as follows. That's because my character doesn't really use barter the same way all the other playbooks do, since I just take what I need from the hard hold.
Yep. Yeah, you're basically the source of barter for most of the other playbooks.
Right.
Awesome. All right. Well, Dusk, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So basically, Dusk would be like this girl you see around Emperor Invictus place, the castle. Like her name implies, mostly at dusk, but also during the night, if you're lucky or unlucky, depending on your perception. Her appearance is like she has like dark long hair, and wears a white sort of dress. Which, given the weather, is kind of strange because you think she would be cold. But that's those that can actually see her, or see her for long enough, because she's often sneaking around. Well, she is, but people think she just vanishes. She's there one instant and the other is not. So you can't really get a very good look at her. You think she's not child-sized. You think she's older. Probably, if you have to wager a guess, she'd be probably around her mid or late teens. Yeah. So, and if you actually get a good look at her, you probably wish you hadn't.
It's too weird, man. It's too weird.
So what's your fancy weapon?
Fancy weapon. Let me see.
Yeah, so under your gear, you have the option to select one of the fancy weapons there.
I'm kind of undecided in the
Okay.
with either hidden knives or a dagger.
Okay. And then your brainer gear, which is up on the left side. Which two of those did you take?
Yeah, I had a question about that.
Yeah.
The brain relay, it says, for the purpose of brainer moves, if someone can see your brain relay, they can see you. Does that mean they cannot see me if they cannot see the relay?
So for that, let's see. Let me look in the actual book to see if there's more information. For purpose of brain maneuvers, if someone can see your brain relay, they can see you. Okay, so I think it's more of an advantage than a disadvantage. So if you look at some of your moves, you have... Let's see, where do you have to actually look? That's physical intimacy, direct brain, effect of growing aggro. So for the direct brain whisper projection, your victim has to be able to see you, but you don't have to interact. So in this case, it's basically meaning, let's say you wanted to focus on that, it's going to be one of your key moves, the direct brain whisper projection. You could technically be behind a wall and be able to do that. It means that it's giving you the ability to kind of reach out and touch someone without actually standing in the same area they are and having them actually see you physically. They don't have to actually see you physically.
I see. But what exactly is the brain relay then?
That
like an antenna?
It's some kind of device that you would probably describe. So it's not necessarily something that people would see. You know, it could be something that you have implanted within you. It just means that when you are using a brainer move that requires someone to see you, they don't have to actually see you physically there, because you have this ability to make yourself appear without actually being there. So you're reaching basically through the psychic maelstrom to get in contact with their brain itself instead of their physical form. So yeah, you could figure out what that is. It could be an ear implant. It could be something that's physically within your mind. It could be whatever you think it might be. That's the luxury of high tech. We don't quite know exactly what it is. You get to make up what it is.
So I could just basically project like a hologram or something.
So it's not something. Yeah, I mean that would be something you can do. Again, with that move in particular, it's pretty much
that would make the creepy little girl thing, like, it would terrify people.
Yeah. I mean, it would allow you to kind of cast yourself, but also if you wanted to talk to someone to force them to do something, you don't necessarily have to put yourself at risk of being there to do it anymore. So again, with the brain whisper projection, you can roll plus weird to get the effect of going aggro without going aggro. Your victim has to be able to see you, but you don't have to interact. If your victim forces your hand, your mind counts as a weapon. 1 harm, AP, close, loud, optional. Going aggro is basically when you are initiating a fight. When you're about to basically say, step up, like, I'm about to rock your world. I'm pulling the actual description of it here real fast. Let me go back up a few pages. So the full description of the move, going aggro, means attacking someone when they aren't expecting it, or if they are expecting it, when they're not ready for it. The move determines mostly how they'll react to your attack, like whether they stand up to you or get the hell out of your way. So Imagine this as you're trying to gain entrance to the armory and you know that there's going to be a guard there. You could use your brain relay to basically hide around the corner and try to force them to flee by basically they either hear your voice or they see your creepy girl standing in front of them and appearing out of nowhere. You're trying to force them to run away, and if they don't want to do that, you cause their head to take some damage, or their nose to bleed, or for their ears to ring really bad. You basically say, okay, you fucked up, you know, now you're gonna hurt because of it.
Oh,
Suddenly,
yes.
Despacito won't stop playing.
So yeah, I'm definitely taking the brain relay then.
Perfect.
Cool.
And for my second gear, most likely the painwave projector,
Awesome.
so that she's somehow surrounded or something,
Mm-hmm.
like she can emit a wave and escape. I think.
So,
It heals arm, but okay.
yeah, let's talk about those. Are these things that you found, or are these things that you just woke up with one day?
So yeah, I think she was most likely experimented on or something, like from something from some group, some large group with large reserves of technology probably.
Mm-hmm.
No, she can't exactly pinpoint where it was. She just one day woke up with her mind wiped and basically broken.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she just appeared from beyond the mountains.
Well, she technically appeared in Invictus place one day. Like she's been there for like some time now, like probably a month or two, and is probably causing people to consider the place haunted or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be something interesting to explore. Because Invictus probably would see that as affecting his business, and I think it would create some dynamic with the hard holder at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what was the stat selection you took?
I was considering the second one. I think it's the most balanced for what I want.
Okay. Perfect. And what were the two brainer moves that you selected?
Definitely the two last ones. You see.
Brain whispers and puppet strings.
Yeah, those
Awesome.
are the...
All right. Who was the last person that you put puppet strings in?
Probably one of the people guarding Invictus place. So most likely one of his men, or
Mhm.
someone that one of his scouts maybe that got too curious and yeah,
Okay.
she had to force her hand.
Okay.
What was their name? Let's see. I can come up with the name here. I've got some lists. Let's see. This was a raider, right? What do we think here? Man, there's some interesting names in this list here.
Let's see.
Yeah. Do they all were all of your guards, Emperor? Are they following the same name structure, or do they kind of keep their previous names?
Yeah, that was.
I would
going to ask.
I would say, like if they're not in a position of command, they keep their old names.
Mm-hmm.
Or if like they're in a position where like they're in charge of like 5 people, something like that, or they have a very important job, then they take a name to represent that.
Okay. Well, Dusk, was this a person in power, or was this just kind of a standard guard?
Most likely just a standard guard. I don't think she would have a motive to approach anyone high ranking.
Okay.
Unless for some strange reason, like I don't know, if they did something to cause her wrath.
Let's take a faceless name. We'll call him Tor.
Poor.
All All right. What were the what was the command that you implanted? What did you tell him to do?
To just likely wander around aimlessly in the woods for some time. This would probably cause them to get hurt with whatever is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm probably missing someone.
There we go.
Either that, or that's how I wound up at the place. I found this guy wandering, and he's like, "Well, there's
Yeah,
safety
he was
over
all
here."
tattered.
Mhm.
He didn't know what happened. He was all bloody, and I think that adds to the mystery of Dusk. Probably makes it more intimidating, even.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, it probably really sucks because he's one of the few people to come back alive, but he was like wigged out on your psychic stuff, so he has no idea.
It's like, what was I doing, man?
All right. Awesome.
Okay.
And so you stay in the like a storage closet. Yeah. Who's down there with you? Who's one of the few people that actually is comfortable in your presence, or someone
If
you've
anyone
begun to
would be
protect, or yeah?
If anyone would be comfortable with the creepy little girl, it would be one of my people.
I mean, yeah, I suppose if you can pick player characters.
We can definitely touch on that in history if we want to kind of wait to answer that question. It's basically who's your confidant, and like who is the person you trust. So if you want to wait till after history, we can do that.
I mean, I have an idea if
Yeah.
I have to pick an NPC, but if
Um,
Lark wants to be my confidant, I suppose we can try to arrange that.
let's see. I'm looking at your history real quick. Yeah, let's wait until history. I think there's actually a few of the questions we can use for that might actually answer that question. So we'll hold off on that for the moment and see if we can get it answered once we actually start doing that. So history is basically the... if you've played any other Powered by the Apocalypse games, it's bonds, it's drives, it's goals. Basically the history you have with your character that will either give you an advantage or give them an advantage over you. It goes up and down. It's another way of actually gaining experience. As you gain more history or you lose history with individuals, you level up your relationship while you kind of level up yourself. So we'll touch on that a little bit more in a moment. And so, yeah, do we actually see the pain relay or the pain wave projector? Or are those just part of your being?
I mean, like I said, if she was tested on, she could probably have like implants in her brain or something, but otherwise nothing sticks out
Perfect.
at all.
I like
So,
it. So maybe
she
there's
might-
just a
she might not
couple
have-
like medical scars, but nothing beyond that. Like you wouldn't be able to tell.
Nothing at all from the outside, nothing.
Perfect.
Absolutely nothing
If
out
they-
of the ordinary besides the creepy little murder spirit.
Nothing strange. I like it. Perfect.
Her strangeness is the strangeness.
Mm-hmm.
This apocalypse world, does your settlement not have one of these?
Right. All right. Well, let's talk to Lark a little bit.
All right.
So, what?
Lark is a man. He wears tattered vestments, which I imagine he's wearing like some winter gear under that. He has like almost regular clothes with like really like shredded like robes and everything over the top that are barely even wearable at this point, but he still has them because that's like his status symbol and he doesn't care if they're falling off.
A lot of
he has
partially naked people here in the cold.
I mean, he has stuff on under it, but like the formal wear,
Yeah.
this part that's supposed to look nice is by far what looks the worst.
Mm-hmm.
He has a determined face, clear eyes, and compared to a lot of other people around here, he's got a fit body. Like he does a lot of walking and he eats fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, we got to talk about your followers.
absolutely, I flat out refer to them as my cult.
Your cult. All right.
I am not like.
So Lark.
I imagine in Lark's head, it was kind of like I bet they'll be more comfortable with us if we're just open about this.
Mm-hmm.
And mixed results on that one. I picked the first stat block, so it's cool 0, hard 1, hot -1, sharp 0, weird 2.
Mm-hmm.
And for the moves, I by default have fortunes. So surplus and want all depend on your followers. At the beginning of your session, roll plus fortune.
Mm-hmm.
On a 10 plus, your followers have surplus. On a 7 to 9, they have surplus, but choose one want. On a miss, they are in want. If their surplus lists barter, like 1 barter or 2 barter, that's your personal share to spend for your lifestyle or for what you will.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2 moves I picked charismatic. When you try to manipulate someone, roll plus weird instead of roll hot. And divine protection. Your gods give you 1 armor. If you wear armor, use that instead. They don't add.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's talk about these gods. What is it that you are serving, preaching? What do you believe in?
All right. So Lark is someone who's faced quite a bit of violence in his life, as many people have. Like, he was probably not even from this general area. He was probably from pretty far off, and like he has some vague memories of his past life, but they're a little repressed because they're not very good.
Mm-hmm.
Like years ago, like something terrible happened. He doesn't even quite remember what, but he just remembers walking for ages.
Mm-hmm.
And like he passed out, and he heard, like, he had like this vision, and he's not even like, he just saw, like, he heard a voice call to him and saw, like, he thought he saw someone reaching a hand out to him. And we as players could probably guess that this was like psychic maelstrom at work, but he believed it was a calling. And it took him quite a while to develop his ideas, but he believes very much in he sees that there are people in this world trying to do good, and there's these people in this world trying to do bad. And so often it's the people trying to do bad that come out on top. So because these good people aren't willing to do the bad things. And that's one of his big ideas, doing bad things for good reasons. It's like, people have to make sacrifices to get by in this world, and
Mm-hmm.
we're here to follow this voice to tell us what sacrifices need to be made, and if possible, we will not necessarily make the sacrifices ourselves, but ensure they happen for the betterment of everyone.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's talk about this group that follows you around. What were your selections from there?
I call them the cult,
Mm-hmm.
and they travel with me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. They are pretty dedicated to me, and they are hardworking and no nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
So these are people that these people have very much, like, I kind of hand select people for the group. So like, I only pick the ones I think will be hardworking, I think will be devoted to my cause and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the downside to that is that, you know, you don't always find too many of them. So for the downsides, I have few followers, 10 or fewer.
Okay.
And probably, like, maybe we had 12 before we made the walk up here.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore.
Cold, gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. They're a little bit like, as we saw with Ashtown, like some of these people among my cult are kind of a little bit bloodthirsty. So they disdain law, peace, reason, and society.
There we go.
Because there are some people that believe society is the problem, and I try to steer them away from that, but I don't have complete control over how they interpret my teachings as much as I want to.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, kind of like what we saw in Ashtown. Like every now and then we just have something, like someone decides to go in a direction I didn't want them to go, and the whole group ends up suffering for it.
So tell me a bit about the follower that's been with you the longest.
The follower that's been with me the longest, that would probably be Rourke. Years ago, when I first kind of like came to, and after my whatever, Lark doesn't like to talk about it. He refers to it as I had an incident in my past.
Mm-hmm.
But Rourke was like the first one that actually like sat down, like listened to these ideas he started having, and actually kind of liked what Lark was selling him, basically. And you know, despite the fact that Lark is actually like a little bit more fit than some of the other people, and because he's experienced violence, he's not completely afraid to like put up a fight if he has to.
Mm-hmm.
Rourke was a little bit the same way. Like, one person in this world is an easy target, two slightly less easy target. So I kind of attribute much of my early survival in this quest to Rourke's companionship.
And why is it that your group always tends to leave an area once the black winds present themselves?
Because I guess it's part of the reason that like I very much like to hand select people for and offer them for the group. My mind's blanking.
Yeah,
All right, can you just repeat the question?
So why is it that your cult has to leave a place once the black winds present themselves?
Okay, so like I hand select like group members and everything, and it's like I don't want to completely force my ideas onto people, because that I kind of attribute to the horrible violence that I want to stay away from. Groups imposing their will on another group, so it almost always ends in bloodshed. So we're like, so I will go to a place, take what I can get, and when things start looking bad, I'll be all right, because we're not a large group, so
Mm-hmm.
I can't afford to lose too many people.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why I'm probably afraid to take them outside again.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right.
Thank you for supporting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
What?
Poor guy in general. The poor guy.
He's like, he wants to play. Sorry, you can't yet. We'll get there. I like 4 players. It always runs a little bit better, gives you guys a bit more time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we were doing, and I said we decided on a world overrun
I
by
see
My
that.
Little Ponies.
Yep, I see that. That's gonna be interesting. Yeah.
It's totally our world.
Yeah, there we go. You had no idea. That's actually what I had coming. You didn't know what that northern gate was. It was actually just a big rainbow.
Dear God.
The dark void is actually the part where friendship doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I would like to do now that we've kind of gotten some information, a few NPCs, an idea of where we are. First, I want to change the name of this thing to the castle. And let's see, what is even here anymore? Nothing but a big blank page. Perfect. That's all we need.
Yay.
That's all you need for Apocalypse World.
That's all we need is a big empty space.
Is it the void?
Is it this big though? Let's see. No, it needs to be much bigger than that. That's
all snow.
That's tiny.
It's a snowy landscape in a blizzard.
It is. Let's change that a bit though, because that's a bit too bright. That's I mean, we're in the mountains, so a gray
Oh, the
should be
snow.
okay. There we go.
Too much white gives too much hope.
So yeah, this can be, for now, our little hard hold map. So as you decide to start coming up with actual locations within the hard hold itself, you know, we've already kind of established that we have a north gate, but, you know, obviously there's a few other gates where the hub is. If you have a specific place you live, give us an idea of what the location looks like. But let's talk a little bit about our histories. So every player has history with each other's players. Your history with someone says how well you know them. It's based on specific moments or episodes in your shared past. Your history with them, written on your character sheet, says how well you know them. Theirs with you on their sheet says how well they know you. It doesn't say how long you've known them, how much you like them, how positive your history together has been, or anything else necessarily. Just how well you get them. If your history with somebody is negative, that means you really don't know them or can't predict what they'll do. Thus, you can't effectively help them or screw them over. History is asymmetrical. My character might know yours +2, and yours might know mine -1, or whatever. So we're going to go around and set our history. I'm going to oversee, make sure everybody has their turn. All of your playbooks will have their own rules for setting history. It should be marked as HX. And then it'll either ask you to go over questions. It'll just give you a blank statement of this is what your history is going to be. If you have questions, you'll just ask for volunteers. So you'll just state what the question is. So who was the one that left me to bleed? And then see if there's a volunteer. If there's not a volunteer, let's have a discussion. If we can't find anyone and we want to forego that question, we can do that. It's up to each player to choose which questions they'll ask on their turn, and up to all players to volunteer the answers. So let's go ahead and start once more with Angus.
Okay, so it says, let's see, go around again. On my turn, ask other players which one of the characters I can trust. I believe that's what I'm supposed to ask.
Okay.
So this is, I just ask everyone in general, or
yeah.
has it...
Just
Okay,
ask
so
who
yeah.
can I trust, and then it's up to
cool.
them to decide who can you trust.
Who can I trust?
So who can Angus trust?
Huh.
Hmm.
I guess he could, in a way, trust Invictus because while he might not always take the most peaceful option, he tends to be rather straightforward with his actions, relatively consistent. He's just looking out for what's best for his heart. So in that regard, you can trust him. You can trust him. He tends to not do anything particularly sneaky. He's very direct.
Okay.
Yeah, I also think Invictus is the one he can trust the most.
All right, and then I think you have a... Yeah, and then it gives you the other part of who you can't trust. So you'll end up adding your history with all 3 of your characters based off that.
Okay.
So yeah, basically with the Battle Babe, it kind of says that you're indifferent to what is safe and drawn to what is not.
Yeah. So I get a -1 for Invictus and a +3 for everybody else.
Yeah, you're a fly attracted to flame.
Honestly, of the 3 other players, Invictus is probably the most normal.
I'm just a dude who's busy just doing his feudal thing, conquering places when
Yeah,
he needs.
right? We say he's normal, but he's living in the past, so far in the past that he actually wears a full regal outfit and calls himself Emperor Invictus. But yeah.
Well, I don't need no religious cult leader judging me, and the creepy little girl's a creepy little girl. So.
There you go. All right, awesome.
I'm not judging you, but take a pamphlet.
What has Emperor Invictus offered Angus to make him want to stay, that he can trust that this is a place he wants to stay?
I'm gonna say that he is one of the few people who he has given access to the armor. Where he's gonna think this person is clearly capable. In fact, they saved one of my men who was out in the woods. If I have them on my side, that's better for me. And for that, hey, you have plenty of weapons. And if you ever need anything, just ask.
Sweet.
Angus, what did you have to do to save Tor?
I found him wandering the woods, and he was half starved, half crazed, and he had set his weapons down and was approaching a wolf without defending himself, and the wolf was very hungry, and I had to basically fight the wolf off despite him not wanting to defend himself.
And what was strange about this wolf?
The wolf was larger than normal, especially considering the scarcity of food.
All right. Very good. Emperor, our hard holder, let's talk about your history.
All right. So I have 2 questions to ask you.
Okay.
Which one of you has been with me since before?
I would not have been. I'd be new.
Me neither.
I mean, Lark's been around for a while. Maybe you knew Lark before your whole operation kind of got up and running.
Right.
So I imagine there's very much this bit of, your cult, that's cute. Look what I've become, Emperor.
Right. Maybe, actually, maybe what if while I was running with the, like, we were running away with the group, we met and you offered to join, like, you offered me to, like, join the cult, and I refused the offer. Something to that extent. So you know me as Mark, but now I'm going by M. Okay, cool. And second question, which one of you has betrayed or stolen from?
I mean, Dusk would probably have stolen some food. She has to sustain herself somehow. I mean, she has the whole creepy girl vibe, but she's still mortal. She's not an actual ghost, I think.
Okay.
She just needs a hug.
I'm pretty new, and you've pretty much given me everything I wanted anyway, so I'd have no reason to steal from you.
What kind of food did you steal?
Basically anything she can find and knows it's edible.
I imagine salted meat would probably be a thing.
Bag of
Most
jerky.
likely.
Probably.
I mean, she likely does not have to eat much. I think that could be one of her other quirks. She doesn't need much food. She only steals like a few pieces of meat for and can keep herself satiated for a couple days maybe.
So let's dive a bit into this a bit more. Was there a punishment for it, or did you have to use some of your special brainer skills to get out of it?
Definitely the latter.
So maybe that's why the guard was trying to get her.
I am not the thief.
Give me the turkey back.
Well, I mean, that actually might be part of the history we come up with, but is it possible that you've actually...
I mean, she only, like I said, she only gets out like at dusk or night to actually scavenge for the food or steal food.
Luckily, that's a fairly large portion of the day still, because we're not having, what do we think? Is there 6-8 hours of sunlight, or even less than that? Like, how long are the days?
Maybe it's actually decreasing. Like, we're probably at about 7 now, but it's getting even shorter.
Yeah.
So I feel like that would just make the whole winter thing even that much more like foreboding.
Because it's not that the days is shorter per se, but because the light is dimmer, what we would consider day would only be that at high point, like around the hours around noonish.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. And then for Dusk, let's take a look at your history. Yeah, looks like you have a couple of questions as well.
Okay, I was just checking my questions.
So yeah, it says you can ask either 1, 2, or all 3. Whatever you prefer.
Okay, so I think I'll ask with the easiest one. I'll begin with the easiest one. I mean, which one of you most evidently dislikes and distrusts me? Yes, I assume.
Yep. That makes sense.
I'm ruining your business.
You've already like done some weird stuff to one of my guys, so
and some food is disappearing.
yeah. So I'm pretty sure, like in terms of my character, like I know there's something going on. I don't have any concrete evidence yet.
Well, you hear people saying that your place is likely haunted, so you're
Oops.
probably.
Discord just bugged out. Okay, I'm back. Cool.
Yep.
I was saying you probably heard about your place being haunted or something, or rumors, but you're like a bit sketchy about it.
Mm-hmm. I said I don't believe it's supernatural. There's a rational explanation for everything.
It's ghosts. It's fucking ghosts. Let me tell you, it's fucking ghosts.
I've seen him
my
in the
God.
hall.
I mean,
This is somehow going to be the most screwed up Scooby-Doo episode ever.
Just
I'm
wait
going to
till I
assume
break
that,
out the Scooby snacks.
I'm going to assume that brainers aren't very common, so I think people would be somewhat superstitious.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you've seen cult leaders, you've seen, you know, hocuses before, but nah, you are something else.
Yeah.
But have we seen the Hocus before? Well, now we have.
He's there. He's living in a tent in your courtyard.
I'll give him the church. I'll give him the church for now.
Mhm.
I can use this.
Yeah, and then did you want to use the other questions or just that one?
Well, I, just for the fun of it, I'm going to ask the others. Which one of you has slept in my presence?
Most
Knowingly
likely,
or
I would say Lark, because he's out in the courtyard and around the church with everyone else. Like and they're in tents. They're practically out in the open.
You said slept. I mean, passing out is like sleeping, right?
I
I
suppose.
do that everywhere.
Probably just wake up one day. Who the hell is this in my tent?
So which one are you gonna select there? You have a choice. For the Hocus sleeping or the Battle Babe sleeping, which one would be more interesting to have access to while they sleep?
I mean, since Angus said he probably passes out, I mean, do you pass out on the street?
Oh, wherever. I probably woke up on the roof one day. I'm like, oh, fuck, how did I get up here?
I mean, if he's the most easy to come across while sleeping, it'd probably be him.
You're somehow in the stockade.
He probably doesn't really like chosen a room or a place to sleep or anything. He just kind of sits down and goes sometimes.
His armor as a pillow.
I gave him a room in the castle. He just doesn't ever go there.
Wait, I have a room?
Wait a second.
And yeah, did you learn anything about Agnes that night?
Something superficial, maybe, because I just probably saw him sleeping and watched them for like a few seconds and continued on.
Okay. So yeah, you've seen something. What did you see? Was it a vision of their future? A smell of their past?
I'll
Smells like he
probably
passed
know.
something.
Yeah, I think the past would be the most easy to access, given how quick she glanced and continued on. So I'd probably know that he's not originally from here. He probably arrived here from the wild, like somehow, like in a way, like her, like she did.
So, Angus, as Dusk kind of looked at you during sleeping, she received a tidal wave of a specific emotion referencing your past. What was that emotion?
It would probably be despair.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, as you kind of look on him sleeping passed out, you see someone that seems to have no care in the world, but then you see a deep pit of despair, referencing where he's come from and possibly why he is where he's at now. Cool.
Somewhat relatable, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then the last one?
Yeah, so which one of you have I been watching carefully in secret?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's over there.
Lark would certainly make sense. Because, I mean, that's a whole group of people that you're probably not super familiar with.
Yeah.
Like, we've certainly never stayed in the castle before.
Lark, what has Dusk seen you do that no one in your cult has seen you do?
Let me think. So there's probably... oh, I know. There's like a personal affect that Lark really likes to keep to himself for multiple reasons. First of all, it's like kind of like a little personal to him. And second of all, he thinks it would start to creep people out. He carries this small, pitch black skull. And you've probably seen him holding it while he does his kind of mock prayers. I say mock prayers. He's praying, but he has no idea to who.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right, perfect. Well, speaking of Lark, let's run down your history. So it looks like you have the option of doing either or both. Your choice.
I will do both. So, which of you are my followers? We kind of already established that Invictus turned me down earlier. I imagine Agnes a million other problems.
I mean, I think Dusk would be intrigued by the whole concept of the religion, because it's something very foreign to her, and I think she's intrigued, but not really that interested in joining, because I mean, like I said, she has no concept of what it is. She's just intrigued by it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So until she probably finds out more, she won't. It's just something she's.
Yeah. So maybe the
likes to...
follower is a future thing, but I agree it doesn't quite make sense for now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something. Yeah, she has.
It might be kind of like you're pretending to be a follower, maybe just to learn what it's like, or what is this thing.
No, I mean, she just skulks around, but in her free time, she probably takes a peek at the rituals or the congregations that Lark makes, and
yeah. I mean, follower doesn't have to be an official like member of the cult so much as you're learning their ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's just a curiosity for now, something different, out of the ordinary, kind of like her.
All right. That's like a weird in between. Should I mark it? Should I mark the +2 or?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Because this is probably the closest I've gotten to an actual follower in a long time, and some spots recently opened up.
Yeah, there you go. You know, who wouldn't want to have the creepy girl in their cult?
Going
I
from
guarantee that the brainer stuff is going to come into play there. That's going to be interesting. Now, the other question, one of you, I've seen your soul. Which one?
Can you repeat the question?
One of you, I've seen your soul. Which one?
I mean, that could be pretty much any one of us.
Yeah, could work for either me or Angus. You could have maybe seen my soul before.
Yeah, and that's why we did the...
Like, that's why you offered, like, hey, join my cult. And I was like...
Yeah, that would definitely make sense. Like, I saw something I liked.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you saw kind of like that aspect of leadership. It was like, wait, I can use that. It's like, join my cult. It's like, no, thanks. And now I'm
Yeah,
here.
we're thinking of starting a second branch.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you saw his leadership.
Very soul.
What was the bad that you saw he could do for good?
I probably just imagine this vision of, like, it looks like him, but it's like almost a faded silhouette. But I just see like this darkness surrounding him, and like others trying to push it away. But he eventually, I just see take like it in this weird silhouette vision, just taking a knife and jabbing it into the, like, through like one of the figures defending against the darkness, through that figure and into the darkness, and the darkness dissipates.
Cool.
But like he's in a position to make sacrifices I can't.
Awesome. So at this point, everybody should at least have some kind of history with all other PCs. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.